For USCFootball.com, I'm Keely Eure here with Dan Weber for instant analysis of USC's 24-20 victory over the Arizona Wildcats. And it's a win for USC. It's their first road win of the season, but it's not necessarily a win that leaves a good taste in your mouth. JT Daniels described it as an angry win. Cam Smith said that it was a stout defensive performance, but not stout enough. What do you take away from this win, Dan?
It's a win. That's it. I mean, it's a Pac-12 South. It's the worst division in major college football. You ought to be able to beat them when you have the fourth best roster talent-wise in the country. So that was, they got away with one last week. It went down to the last play this week. Looked like it's going to be a rout. All of a sudden, it's basically going down to, you got to, handle the onside kick or you're in trouble. And this was really a pretty awful effort. They blocked the ball. I mean, this is what's so bad. They played, pretty strong defense. They blocked the run fairly well. I mean, They ought to block the run. It's Arizona, for God's sakes. But they don't have much to show for it except, they go out of here with a win. But and that's a heck of a lot better to be 3-2 and 2-1 in the Pac-12. But this is not it's not a very good team, and it's not very well coached. And when you watch the good teams play around the country on a day like today, when you've got all day to watch, you realize USC isn't even close to being in the same league with a lot of those teams who don't have as much actual talent as USC. But the product is the lack of discipline, the lack of poise, the penalties, the screw-ups on bad snaps and bad timing and bad handoffs, and doing the absolutely worst thing you could possibly. I mean, you knew, for example, the one time Arizona going to try to throw a Hail Mary, and then they're going to have to hope USC commits a penalty. Hey, USC didn't commit a penalty. They committed two of them. It's like, yeah, we know it's USC. They'll screw it up. They'll figure out some way to give us, another shot. It's pretty disappointing. I know Clay said after the game a couple of times his players are realists. I think realistically they know we got to win, but they aren't exactly telling us what has to change what's happening on the field in games. They all say, we got to do this, we got to do that. And then you ask them specifically, how do you do that? How do you correct the mistakes? How do you, improve on the focus? How do you, keep your poise? How do you not do? And they just look at you like, I don't know.
And USC is going into a bye week this week, but they're only practicing 2 times. And you asked Amon-Ra St. Brown, is 2 practices enough time for this team?
And you don't want to put anybody. I mean, I ask a lot of kids about practice and what they're getting out of it and what they would do, and they would tell you that's not their call, and they know it. And nobody wants to say anything about how they're being prepared week to week to week. But clearly, whatever they're doing is not working. And, I mean, I just don't think they're practicing under game pressure, game conditions, under enough of the kind of pressure that you have to perform in games. And so they show we got way more talent. They know they got way more talent. They just, do enough to get a pretty comfortable lead, and then they just kind of, lollygag around and leave it out there for Arizona to make it up. And then there's, running for their lives at the end. And the amazing thing, I know Clay said, well, he didn't want to put a young quarterback out there. He only threw the ball, JT, 24 times in a hostile environment. This wasn't a hostile environment. There weren't 15,000 people in the stands at the end. They all left. They all said, we're not nearly as good as USC. We don't have a shot. They got up and left. I mean, you'd have had to have guards at the student section to try to keep them in the game in the second half. So most of them, they're downtown somewhere and looking at the television and said, wait a minute, we're still in this game? Are you kidding me? We all saw how that game was. We're not anywhere near as good as USC. But there they were at the end.
Yeah, it seemed like USC just pulled their foot off the gas pedal, and that seems to be something we've seen in the Clay Helton era. I don't think we've ever seen a full blowout of a team under Clay Helton. Why is this a culture problem, a coaching problem, a little bit of both?
A little bit of both. But I think they start grab bagging in terms of the play calls. They do this, they do that, they try this, and they're 3 and out. And they do this, they do that, they do that, they're 3 and out. And you think, you just have already done what you know you can do against this team. Just keep doing it. But they don't seem to have that ability. And, this is a team that'll gain 9 yards on the first down, run the same play again, and gain nothing. And then it's 3rd and 1. And now they got to get 1, and they can't get 1. It drives you crazy. I mean, they do so many good things, and then they negate them with, the next 1 or 2 things they do. Just unacceptable. I mean, really unacceptable.
So what's the fix? We are almost halfway through the season. It seems a little bit like this is just who this team is. I don't think a bye week can cure all of USC's problems, but if you're the coaches, if you're part of this team, what needs to happen next?
I think you need to practice them like they're in games. They've got to go full speed, full concentration, full focus, under pressure, and if they don't get it right, you stop it and you grab somebody and you say, we're going to do it over again till you do it right. We're not going to just allow you to do things however you want to do them. We're going to do them our way, and you're going to do them right every single time, because that's the only thing that's going to work in games. We don't see that. And that doesn't happen in practice, and it's got to start happening so that, it's easy to, go back to when they had it really rolling, and what they did was they had practices that were just like or tougher than games. That's not even close to the situation now. I think I'd do a whole lot more. I'd never go a day without the ones going against the ones. Not necessarily tackling, but full speed, best athletes you got on both sides of the ball, challenging one another, competing with one another, trying to get the best out of one another. I'd probably not do much scout team work at all. I think I'd do a lot of maybe 1s against 2s and get as many athletes on the field and go as fast as you can, and not make practice look like it's a skull session from inside the McKay Center that you just transferred out to the field and you're walking through the same thing you'd be doing in a classroom. No, I don't think it's a problem of they don't know what to do. They don't know how to do it under the kind of pressure they end up in games like this. And I think there's got to be more discipline. You can't, it's just a total lack of discipline when you have that many penalties. And you got to have discipline in practice, the same discipline that you don't have, that you show up, and not have at the games.
Yeah. It's a bittersweet victory, as we mentioned. Some of the sweeter moments of the game, Keely Eure had his 3rd consecutive 100-plus rushing yard game against Arizona. When asked what is it about Arizona in the post-game presser, Marvell Tell interrupted Keely Eure and said he doesn't like them. So at least that's a good thing. USC got their rushing game going. Dan wants to interrupt me, but I'm going to keep going.
If I were sad, I would really like Arizona. No, I would not like them. I would like them. They're not athletic enough to stop him. You give him some blocking, and on a number of plays they did, he can run by people. And, this is what's so frustrating. USC is so much better than that Arizona team. And here's the result. Yeah.
Well, I tried pointing out some of the positives. As far as injuries go, Porter Gustin has an ankle impingement, and he said something in his ankle kept popping out during the game. He actually suffered that injury against Washington State, got taped up, and tried to play through it today. It kept popping out. He said it got too painful towards the end of the game, so painful that he couldn't contribute to the team, so that's why he wasn't in on those final Arizona drives. Malik Doran has an ankle issue that we're not very clear on, and there's someone else I'm forgetting. John Houston was out for the second half of the game. He, on the penultimate play of the first half, he got rocked pretty hard. He looked pretty confused when he came up. So it's a head, neck type injury. As far as that, we didn't get official injury update just because there's a bye week, and I think Clay Helton wanted to be a little hush-hush about that.
Right. No, I think Clay said they had, he normally doesn't say this if there aren't some injuries, and he said there were. Yeah. That they got, beat up a little bit. But then we didn't really hear anybody. We didn't really see anybody other than those three. So, we're not absolutely certain, but having the week off, Porter thinks, the week, that'll be fine. He'll be fine. I guess what he said was he couldn't plant and he couldn't run fast. And he said, I just wasn't going to help him out there. I wasn't, he would have gone out, and I don't think the pain's going to stop him, except his ankle just wasn't working. So he couldn't do it. And he said he would have loved to have been out there on that goal line stand almost.
So they turned the lights out on us. If you can see the commotion in the background, they're having some type of sleepover for kids in the background on the field, so that's what's happening now. But that's pretty much going to wrap it up for Instant Analysis. Not much more you can say about this game. Any final thoughts, though, Dan?
Well, I will say this. The Washington State win looks a little better tonight because Washington State just beat Utah.
Yeah.
So it was at Washington State, but so that's a plus. That gives Utah a loss.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know that you want this USC team to feel like they've got a little cushion in the South, which is just horrible, might I say. When they keep telling us, the kids keep saying, this will give us, that bye week will give us a chance to get ready for an unbeaten Colorado team. You want to go, really? Colorado? At USC? Come on. I'm glad they're going to be ready for Colorado, but the Pac-12 South, if USC doesn't win the Pac-12 South, wow.
I mean, what do you see? What do you see happening? Where does this team need to go in order for things to continue?
They need to practice harder, smarter, under more pressure. They need to demand more of themselves. The players do, and the coaches do.
Yeah.
The coaches have to demand more of themselves, and the players, I think, have to demand more of the coaches. I mean, they're just like a lot of things at USC right now. It just seems like they're getting by, but you don't have that sense that they want to be the best. I don't get any sense right now with this team, other than I think JT Daniels is unbelievably good freshman quarterback with great potential, and Amon-Ra. So, I mean, there are some things that are really special, potentially really special. But I don't know that we're seeing them all the time. I thought that we got a preview of how good the defense might be able to be, especially if they stop committing those just really stupid penalties. Just that chippiness, that unsportsmanlike conduct, that after the play is over, just goofy stuff. I mean, just total lack of discipline. I mean, what you see on the field is an undisciplined team, and that tells you that they have undisciplined practices. So if they discipline themselves and everybody more at practice, practice really matters. Everybody knows it, but it doesn't seem to be changing much at all, and it's got to.
Yeah. All right, that's going to wrap it up from a sloppy victory in Arizona. For Dan Weber, I'm Keely Eure. For more, check out uscfootball.com.